All right. Hello, my friends. It is Wednesday, February 19th, 2025, and this is a daily brief. My name is Darren Gerdes. I'm just a professor trying to provide context in the war in Ukraine. So, the big story is that another drone strike, another Ukrainian drone strike on an oil refinery. We'll get to that in a moment. 1,300 Russians off the battlefield, 19 tanks, 23 armored fighting vehicles, 72 artillery systems. Look at this 146 vehicles and fuel tanks, and 4 air defense systems. So the pressure's still there, but the 1,300 is still on the low side compared to the past months, but it's almost the average for February. 1297 is the average and 1,300 today. So, yeah, as opposed to 15 something, 15 something, and 15 something over the past 3 months. Okay, out of 167 launched Shahed drones, 106 were shot down, 56 drones and simulators were suppressed by electronic warfare. But that doesn't mean damage wasn't still done. Among Russia's targets tonight in the missile, now it was not just drones, there were also missiles. The missile attack on the city of Odesa was another children's hospital. Residents in several districts are without water, gas, and electricity. Rescue efforts are ongoing. Now, 160,000 Odessa residents are without heat and power after this Russian strike on energy infrastructure, Zelensky said. Schools and the kindergarten, the hospital affected. This comes just after Russia falsely claimed in Riyadh that it doesn't target energy infrastructure. No, they don't do that, but they just did. Zelensky revealed that in one city there were no missiles for the Patriot air defense system, saying at 5 a.m. the commander reported 8 targets are incoming, but we have no air defense missiles. Wow, that's got to be a terrible place to be. Now, the Ukrainians were also hitting back. The Syzran oil refinery struck by Ukrainian drones 900 kilometers from Ukraine in Samara region. The facility refined 8.5 million tons of crude oil annually. That's 170,000 barrels per day, or 2.6% of Russia's total capacity. That doesn't mean that 2.6% is offline. It doesn't mean that they destroyed the whole thing, but it at least shuts it down temporarily or destroys part of it temporarily or for some period of time. An explosion rocked an oil field in Russia's Tumen region, halting operation at 23 wells. 2 workers were seriously injured. Okay, multiple fires could be seen. This is the Suran, another view of it. Multiple fires could be seen rising from the complex. So it's not just one hit there either. You can see that there's multiple places. And then as a result of the Suran oil refinery, the primary oil refining unit was damaged. The drone target at the AVT-6 unit, after which a fire broke out over an area of 30 square meters. So the enterprise temporarily suspended operations. Here's a daytime view of it, and you can see the fire still burning. Okay, let's turn our attention to the battlefield now. So Putin's theory of victory assumes that the Russian military can sustain slow, creeping advances on the battlefield longer than Ukrainian forces can defend and longer than the West is willing to support Ukraine. I'm not worried about this part of how long the Ukrainian forces can defend. I'm more concerned about how long the West is willing to actually show their support. But yeah, they just keep putting meat into the grinder and keep pushing forward and seeing what they can do. Russia's pincer maneuver faces setback after the loss of a key settlement. Ukraine's liberation of, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, Pishny, I don't know if that's correct or not. Please put it in the comments. Prevents Russia from launching direct assaults toward Pokrovsk from south and disrupts their western flanking operation. So they took a little bit of ground back, and that's going to blunt their movement. Okay, in the cross direction, invaders led 43 assaults. I've gone, so every once in a while I'll show you there's this many assaults here and that many assaults there and this many assaults here and so and so and so. So if I go through about 8 or 10 of these showing the intensity, you can kind of get a feel for the battlefield. But in recent days, I've just been showing Pokrovsk, and Pokrovsk seems to be fairly tied to whatever's going on here. The intensity here, you can almost predict what's going to be going on in Pokrovsk. 43 assaults as opposed to 60 or 70 when it's really intense, or maybe 30 when it's really not. Okay. The first North Korean artillery system was destroyed in Ukraine. These are new systems that were being shipped out. We showed you months ago, well, maybe it was about a month ago, showed you these things on a train on its way out. Unmanned Systems Forces carried out precise strike on the M1978 Kosan self-propelled howitzer, a rare development from North Korea, equipped with 170 millimeter gun with a firing range of up to 60 kilometers. So that's just the big boom. Here it is in the radar, or here's what it looks like as it's being targeted, and then you saw a big boom afterwards, and it's gone. Okay, 1,000 North Korean troops are now training in Russia or on a new military equipment, quickly adapting to modern warfare, per Ukraine's intelligence. Their combat effectiveness will apparently increase as a consequence of that, including just simple awareness of what drones are and how damaging drones can be, because they were using tactics that predated drones, and drones were just wreaking havoc on them before. Okay, in other news, U.S. General Kellogg has finally arrived in Kyiv, and he says, "We're listening. We understand the need for security guarantees. We're very clear about the importance of the sovereignty of this nation and the defense of this nation as well." So he's here, and hopefully he'll get a better sense of what's going on. Zelensky said he's willing to go with Kellogg to the front, let him communicate with the military and see things for himself. Kellogg is actually a military man himself. He's a I think a three-star general, and he was in the I think special forces years ago, and so he has a pretty good sense of the military kind of climate, and so getting him to see it for himself will be a very good thing. Okay. In other news, the EU envoys agree on a 16th package of sanctions against Russia, including a ban on primary aluminum import sales of gaming consoles. Those they could use those to help with drones and that sort of thing. In listing 73 Shadow Fleet vessels, according to the Financial Times. I'm going to talk about that tonight in the three big stories, which is probably 9 or 10 big stories at this point from what I've seen so far. We'll talk about that more tonight. The idea of European force in Ukraine was widely rebuffed a year ago. Remember when Macron was talking about, well, we could put troops on the ground? You can't do that. Yeah, that's now changed. So the mood has shifted significantly. Lithuania has delivered a new package of military aid worth 80 million to Ukraine. Man, I love Lithuania. Lithuania, you just keep stepping up. If you don't know anything about Lithuania, Lithuania is about the size of West Virginia in population. So it's a small little Baltic state, but they punch way above their weight. The country's Ministry of Defense said it includes trucks, thermal imaging sites, and other essential equipment. And in this is a new drone. This is pretty interesting. The VBAT training has begun on the latest UAV. At one of the training centers, operators of Unmanned Systems Forces started training on the American-made Reconnaissance Strike Complex VBAT UAV system featuring VTOL, that's vertical takeoff and landing system. There's no runway that's required. It's just a 4x4 meter square. Deep reconnaissance of up to 150 kilometers, maximum flight altitude of 6 kilometers, flight time of 10 hours. That's pretty impressive. Laser guided camera, as well as 320x optical zoom camera, accurate positioning without GPS. And the aircraft can carry a strike drone or even a missile. So this is what it looks like as it's being set up and taking off. It's kind of ugly, but if it proves to be effective, awesome. Look at that. There it goes. So we'll see how that all plays out and what they'll be able to do with that capability. Meanwhile, on Russian state TV, they're talking about why not create a military coalition between Russia and America and divide Europe? Who needs it? I think it's a great idea. We'll set up our bases without a hitch at the usual points. Berlin, Paris, as in 1814. Europe will immediately save money on the armed forces, on the military-industrial complex, and they won't have to worry about anything. Seriously, they're talking about this on Russian state TV. It's really amazing to see. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Germany invaded Poland, but blamed Poland for starting the war. That's exactly what happened. In fact, they set it up. They staged it. It was a false flag, and it remained a Hitler talking point for years. Russia invaded Ukraine, but blamed Ukraine for starting the war, and it remained a Putin talking point for years. And Trump just repeated it. Yep, that's where we are right now. Okay. If you think that this stuff isn't important, it is. This is a kindergarten in occupied Mariupol. Remember the defense of Mariupol, how long that lasted? Children march to Russian patriotic music, preparing for the so called Defender of the Fatherland Day. The song speaks of holding a rifle and serving in the motherland, and this is part of Russia's efforts to militarize Ukrainian children. Yep, that's where we are. Okay, finally, on this day in 2022, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister stated Russia has no plan for any aggressive actions. We will not attack, strike, or invade Ukraine. So you can believe us about peace negotiations now. By the way, I have not repeated this. This is February 19th, 2025. I keep showing you day after day after day of them denying that they're going to do what they went and did. All right, my friends, that's all that I have for you today. Thank you for the time, the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.